One of the greatest myths that's associated with evaluating verbal and nonverbal communication, especially nonverbal communication, is that there are nonverbal behaviors that are indicative of truth or deception. Let's get one thing clear right now. Science has identified exactly 0 behaviors that are 100% indicative of truthful or deceptive statements and interactions. They don't exist. In fact, let me ask you this. How many of you have been in a conversation with somebody, business or personal, and as they were communicating a message to you, their behavior changed? And when their behavior changed, you thought to yourself, they just lied to me. How many of you have been there before? How many of you have been right at least once? Okay, good. Here's the problem, the only problem with that. It wasn't their behavior change that caused you to think that they were lying. It was the context of the conversation. When people's behavior change, they can show you indications of comfort and discomfort, but they can't show you indications of honesty and dishonesty. So what you truly saw was somebody's behavior temporarily look uncomfortable. And then you thought to yourself, why are they uncomfortable? Most likely because they're lying to me. But it wasn't the specific behavior that caused you to think that. Whether we realized that or not, it was the behavior that we realized within the context of the situation. I'll go over the 4-step framework that we use to evaluate verbal and nonverbal communication in just a moment. When we do that, make no mistake, the single most valuable factor or consideration when we evaluate verbal and nonverbal communication is not the behavior itself. It's the context in which the behavior changes. Somebody can look at you like this because you just hit them with information they had no idea you had, and they could really be in trouble. Someone could look at you like this because you were just in a car accident and you have blood streaming from your face. So there's lots of reasons why people can give you the same looks or the same reaction. We then begin to infer what their reactions mean based on the context of the situation. One of my teammates, Dave, who's phenomenal, was recently engaged in some conversation with some leading false confession experts up in New York City. And they were going back and forth talking about the dangers of reading nonverbal behavior, which, by the way, we are 100% in agreement with. And one of the gentlemen, I wasn't there to hear Dave tell the story, one of the gentlemen who had been most vocal towards the end of the meeting did this. Looks at his watch, the clock, and the door. And as soon as he did that, Dave looked at him and said, where are you off to next? I have dinner plans. I'm not surprised. Because you just looked at your watch, the clock, and the door 45 minutes through a 60-minute meeting, which tells me that in the context of this situation, you've had enough and you're ready to move on to whatever you have planned next in your evening. So there are absolutely ways that we can evaluate verbal and nonverbal communication as long as we don't focus on truth and lie, and we focus on comfort and discomfort, and really try to use understanding why somebody might be comfortable or uncomfortable in the context of this situation to get in between their ears and begin to understand what they might be thinking or feeling. And with what we talk about tonight, that's really what we want to get to. How do we turn our observations into actionable intelligence?